As it's Throwback Thursday, I wanted to reminisce on one of my sporting achievements going back a little while. And in the early 90s, I was working for an organisation, I was in sales. And I recall bumping into somebody, it was either an old school friend or even a previous work colleague, who told me that they were back playing netball. So we're in our 20s now, and used to play at school and hadn't played since the age of 16. So got in conversation with her about where she played, how she got back into it. And it was, putting a group together and been playing for a number of years and what leagues they played in. Long story short, went back to my organisation and was talking to some other colleagues and asking had anybody played netball either from school or since school. I think nearly everybody hadn't been playing, but they were all up for putting a team together and starting to get back into netball. As what I normally do, I take an idea and I just run with it. And I looked at recruiting, obviously, team members. Also looked into, okay, how are we going to get back into the rules and understanding of netball and actually how to play as a team? Because majority of these were work colleagues, but we hadn't really socialized together. So getting into a team, there was going to be a lot of trust to build and confidence in each other. And I think, can't remember the full process, but I know I purchased books on netball, the basics of netball, because you could say, oh, well, I remember it from school. But yes, I remember playing. But back then you had a PE teacher who helped you understand the rules and helped you when you went to play against other schools. But actually coaching ourselves, that was a whole new kettle of fish. And also we were adults, had families. So it was finding the time to do that and committing to that time, finding a place to train, so a netball court somewhere, and actually understanding what type of training we would need to do. But I took it upon myself to do that because I said, listen, if we're going to do this properly, we've got to know the basics and then build from there. And as I said, I was in sales and I was talking to one of my customers who was based in Milton Keynes at the time. Was it Milton Keynes or Bletchley? One of those areas. And said what we were doing. And she said, oh, I'd love to be part of that team as well. So she came on board. And one of my colleagues' sisters came on board. So I think we had an initial squad, probably about 10 people. And obviously for each team, it's 7. So we had more than we needed anyway. But we found, I think it was a school court somewhere that we could hire in the evenings. And I think we probably trained initially, I think we trained once a week. Long story short, we started training. We looked at a league that we could join. And at the time, there was a league that was sponsored by Booker, Cash and Carry, as it was then. And they were happy to take on new teams. I think we used to play on Saturday mornings. But it was such a thrill to grow with this team, to kind of understand the game of netball and all the positions and ascertain who was suited to which positions. And that came over, a shortish period once you got playing against other teams, when we were practicing what people felt comfortable with. I have to admit, I could play any position apart from shooting. I couldn't shoot in the net for toffee. I could stand under it, be far away, anything in between, and it wouldn't go in. So I resigned myself that I can do any other position bar shooting. And we grew really well as a team. We gelled. We got to understand how we placed around the court, and we really played as a team. There was no individuals in there. We were a team. We knew our moves. And I used to play centre quite a lot, which is you have the run of the court. But I could make eye contact with my goal shooter or my goal attack and knew how to power a ball into the circle for them to score. I was a brilliant defender as well. There was times I used to play goal defence or goalkeeper, which I also enjoyed because I was a jumper. At 5'4", it's helpful if you are a jumper. And there was always, I remember another team we used to play against, can't remember the name of the team, and one of their opponents, who was their goal shooter, she was called Bev. I was Beverly, she was Bev. And she must have been close to 6 foot tall. And once we developed our credibility as a reputable team, she used to roll her eyes when she saw our team coming, and she'd ask me, "What position are you playing?" Because anytime we played against her, I have to say it myself, an excellent defender with her. They would shoot balls in, and against other teams, she could get them. She could put her hands up and she would get that ball coming in. I'd say 9 times out of 10, the ball would be coming in. I could go back, defend it, and get that ball off her. But it was a fantastic opportunity to develop as a team. I even got to the stage where I trained as an umpire as well, because again, that helped me understand the rules of the game. So, why am I sharing this? Because I relate it to teams in business, that when you bring a team together, a lot of the time they're all distinct parts, but as they get to work together, you get to understand the strengths and weaknesses, or you predominantly focus on the strengths of each team member. But how does that all work together as a team? There's also the development bit in there. You can develop as a team and you can develop individually. And I personally do like, particularly when it comes to sport, to ensure I really understand what I'm doing individually as a person, but also what are my responsibilities to my team and them to me, when I'm accountable for what I take ownership of for the success of the team. And so I love developing myself, but also developing our team. I really got into the coaching aspect of the team. I think in the end, we were playing in 3 different leagues. I think we played on a Saturday morning, we outdoors, we played on a Sunday morning indoors, and we also played indoors. Or was I playing for another team? I know I used to play 3 times a week. And there was another indoors session on a Tuesday or Thursday. It would alternate. But those were late starts. I think the actual matches wouldn't start until 8:30, and the last one would be 10:30. Yes, and I'd be going out at night at 10 o'clock at night, as the news at 10 come on, to go and play netball. And I did that for about 5 years, in my 20s. And the only reason I stopped was, one, throughout the seasons, I would see fellow players, even in other teams, suffer injuries, whether it's with the wrists, particularly the knees and the ankles. And there was one particular, I think it was a Sunday morning, I was playing indoors, and I jumped up for the ball, I landed, and my leg rocked, so the knee rocked. I was okay, but it was one of those moments thinking that was close. And I was in a job that required driving around a lot. And I thought then, no, can't really afford to have time off in a job that requires driving. And it was coming towards the end of the season, and I made the decision then, yeah, I'm going to stop playing. Did I miss it? I missed it initially, but then I went on to other things. And I'll cover that in another Throwback Thursday. But I hope you enjoyed my sharing.